So the Democratic convention is going on, and I would describe it as embarrassing, soul-sucking. It looks like it's an infomercial that you'd see if you can't sleep and you turn on the TV at 3 a.m. It's some scam product. I feel like I spoke to Corin about it, and I was like, is it just me? Is it just the channel I'm watching it on that, like, it appears to be very blurry, like, not HD? And he was like, no, man, that's it. Like, it's not the channel you're watching it on. It's just, like, it just is poor quality. There were audio glitches. I mean, it's everything you can imagine. It's like a bunch of idiots got together to try to do a Zoom call, and none of them know how to use Zoom, and they're just, like, fumbling all over themselves. They were cutting to people too early. It was just, it's a mess. It's a mess. And as I was watching it, the thing that kept popping in my mind is the same advice that I've been giving Joe Biden. Like, hey, man, listen, if you just keep hiding, you will maintain like an 8 or 9 point lead on Trump, so keep doing that. I feel the same way about the DNC now. Like, what would we really be missing out on if we just didn't have a Democratic National Convention? We wouldn't be missing out on anything. Because the amazing thing is, so Biden was like +8 or +9 on Trump, and then he got out there and started giving more interviews and talking more, and then he picked Kamala Harris, and it was like his lead went from 8 or 9 points to like 4 points. So the more stuff he did, the worse he ended up. And I feel the same way watching the convention. It's like, all these people are reminding me how much I hate them, and if they would just get away, then perhaps my hatred wouldn't be as seething as it is. So, now listen, I'm a unique case. You know, I'm on the populist left. You know, you could say I caucus with the Democrats, but really, I'm an independent. If I wasn't in New York, I would be registered as an independent. You know, in New York, I have to register as a Democrat to vote in Democratic primaries, unfortunately, because they're closed primaries. So maybe I'm not the key audience that they're trying to appeal to, but like my question to them is, okay, then who is? Like, who is? You know, I'm the guy who like wavered between either not voting, voting Green, or voting Biden. So like, if I'm not the audience, the person that you really need to get, the kind of person that you need to get in order to win the next election, then who is the audience? Because watching the DNC, the overwhelming sense I got is this is only appealing to the people who are already definitely going to vote for Biden and love standard corporate Democrats. So it's appealing to that crowd. And you know the other crowd it's appealing to? Moderate Republicans. Now, they've even gone way too far on this front. So let me show you this tweet because I really do think this says a lot. This is August 13th, 1996. Governor Christine Todd Whitman of New Jersey, Representative John Kasich, Ohio, and Representative Susan Molinari of New York all address the Republican National Convention in San Diego. So they are all speaking at the Democratic Convention now. So all these Republicans are now speaking at the Democratic Convention. Now, beyond that, you know who else we got? We got Colin Powell, who gave a speech, and that was a surprise one, by the way. Just, we didn't know about it beforehand until like, you know, maybe like a couple hours before he actually spoke yesterday. And also now Cindy McCain, the wife of John McCain. So Christine Todd Whitman, John Kasich, Susan Molinari, Colin Powell, Cindy McCain. Guys, they're going so above and beyond to get Republicans that they're more welcoming of Republicans than they are of the left. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got like 60 seconds or 90 seconds or something like that to give her speech, and they're just packing the whole thing full of Republicans. Now, there's a bunch of stuff going on Twitter about this. Like, people are doing the comparison. You know how all of the hashtag resistance people and the standard Democrats were crying and screaming about Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders and Bernie pointing out, or Bernie's team pointing out on Twitter that, hey, the number one podcast host in America endorsed me. People were going nuts over that. And myself and many other people were like, you guys are insane to view this as a bad thing. Like, this is what politics is about. You're trying to get people who would otherwise disagree with you to agree with you. So what you're seeing is, like, now people are taking all these Republicans speaking at the Democratic convention, and they're trying to make that same point. They're trying to say, what do you mean? I thought this is what politics was about. You're trying to get people, to agree with you. Here's the difference, and here's why that comparison is totally bogus. Joe Rogan was signing up to Bernie Sanders' social democratic platform. Joe Rogan was saying, yes, I'm going to throw my lot in with this guy. I'm going to support this guy, which means I'm supporting Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars, you name it, all Green New Deal, all of Bernie's policies. If he's supporting him, he's signing up for that, right? So it's somebody who is nominally kind of like an independent, maybe a swing voter kind of person who's saying, I'm with Bernie. So I'm signing up to social democratic ideas. The problem with all these Republicans speaking at the Democratic National Convention with Biden as the nominee is that they're not signing up for a social democratic agenda. They're not signing up for left-wing ideas. They're correctly recognizing that Joe Biden is a moderate Republican himself, and so they know they don't have to change their mind on Dickie McGee's acts because Biden's already with them. So them speaking is an acknowledgement that the Democratic Party of today is the so-called moderate Republican Party of 1996, and that's the problem. The problem is the Democrats are fully embracing the idea of being the 1996 moderate Republican Party. And I tweeted this yesterday that, and I've said it a couple times on the show, in this country, we don't have a Democratic Party. There is no Democratic Party. There's a Republican Party, and there's a diet Republican Party. Those are your options. Your options are center-right or far-right. Your options are neoliberal corporatist or corporatist neoconservative warmongering authoritarian. Those are your options. Now, that's why we're so frustrated, and that's why people are mad at who the speakers are. Guys, listen, when it comes to Colin Powell, for example, he's literally a war criminal. Like, he lied us into a war. Remember holding up the uranium yellow cake vial at the UN trying to say, see, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and the implication was like, he can launch on us at any second. That was nothing but scaremongering, lying us into a war that we're still in, by the way, which killed minimum hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqi civilians. I'm a pretty lenient guy, but I don't think I want war criminals speaking at the convention that's supposed to nominally represent my politics. I'm a registered Democrat, like I told you guys, okay? Colin Powell is a Republican. So we're more welcoming of war criminal Republicans than of the Democratic base. And the answer is yes. I think they have a war criminal quota. Maybe they'll invite Bill Kristol as well. And listen, somebody tweeted this jokingly, but I think it's like half true. You don't think that if the Democrats could get George W. Bush to speak at the convention that they would? I'm convinced the Democrats would let George W. Bush speak at the Democratic convention. And that's the problem. Listen, I hate Trump. I despise Trump. I despise George W. Bush just as much. I'm not cool with moderate Republican ideas, so to speak. What I'm in favor of is what the American people want. I'm in favor of Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and ending the wars and a Green New Deal and legalizing marijuana and freeing the nonviolent drug offenders and eliminating student loan debt. Like, that's what I'm in favor of. That's what I'm signing up for. The Democratic Party is not in favor of those things. The Democratic Party is also beholden to Wall Street and Big Pharma and the military-industrial complex and the for-profit health insurance companies. And that's the problem, is that the Democratic Party really is the diet Republican Party. They really are the moderate Republican Party. And this is them rubbing it in. See, they really think that by doing this is politically clever. Like, oh, we're going to hold the base. Like, Bernie will be such a cuck that he'll get all the base to fall in line. And we're also going to get so many of these moderate Republicans. So in other words, let's try the exact same thing that didn't work in 2016. Listen, I've heard it. I'm sure you guys have heard it too. There are people who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 literally cried about it. They cried about it because they felt it was so dirty and so disgusting to have to vote for somebody who was a supporter of Wall Street deregulation, who was a supporter of the Iraq War, who's a complete hawk, but they understood how terrible Donald Trump is, so they held their nose and did it, but they literally cried, either before, during, or after voting for Hillary Clinton. The Democratic Party will not rest until every young leftist who votes for Biden does it with tears rolling down their faces. And that's what's so frustrating. Can you please, for the love of God, make it easier on people to do it? Can you please? No, they can't. They're going to keep running further and further right. They're going to keep inviting more and more Republicans. They're not changing Republican minds to sign on to left-wing social democratic ideas. They're agreeing with the Republicans on their terms, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Joe Biden supporting the Iraq War, Joe Biden being a deficit hawk and pushing Social Security cuts, Joe Biden doing the crime bill. The problem is the moderate Republicans know that that's Joe Biden. He's basically a moderate Republican. So, forgive me for being super annoyed by all this. Now, I do want to play for you one more thing here. It's not just that the Democratic convention is the Diet Republican convention. It's also that the Democratic speakers also sound like Republicans. So here's John Kerry proving that.
When this president goes overseas, it isn't a goodwill mission, it's a blooper reel. He breaks up with our allies and writes love letters to dictators. America deserves a president who is looked up to, not laughed at. Donald Trump pretends Russia didn't attack our elections, and now he does nothing about Russia putting a bounty on our troops. So he won't defend our country, he doesn't know how to defend our troops. The only person he's interested in defending is himself. This is the bottom line. Our interests, our ideals, and our brave men and women in uniform can't afford 4 more years of Donald Trump. Our troops can't get out of harm's way by hiding in the White House bunker. They need a president who will stand up for them, and President Biden will. Joe's moral compass has always pointed in the right direction, from the fight to break the back of apartheid to the struggle to wake up the world to genocide in the Balkans. Joe understands that none of the issues of this world, not nuclear weapons, not the challenge of building back better after COVID, not terrorism, and certainly not the climate crisis, none can be resolved without bringing nations together with strength and humility. Joe understands our values don't limit our power, they magnify it. He knows you can't spread democracy around the world if you don't practice it at home. And he knows that even the United States of America needs friends on this planet. Before Donald Trump, we used to talk about American exceptionalism. The only thing exceptional about the incoherent Trump foreign policy is that it has made our nation more isolated than ever before. Joe Biden knows we aren't exceptional because we bluster that we are. We are exceptional because we do exceptional things.
That speech could have been delivered at a Republican convention. Virtually all the arguments there are right-wing arguments, or pro-establishment arguments. He does the whole, love letters to dictators thing. That's, of course, a reference to Kim Jong-un. Meanwhile, of all the things to attack Trump about, North Korea is literally the dead bottom of the list. Why? Because we're not at war with them. We're not at war with them. He was attempting to make peace. Yes, Trump is a ridiculous character. Yes, Kim Jong-un is a ridiculous character as well. Yes, North Korea is terrible in 1,000 different ways. Of course. I would rather have somebody try to make peace than the opposite. But no, he attacks him over the one thing he did well. North Korea. The one thing. Love letters to dictators. Then he does the whole stupid, and this is big in elite circles, America's being laughed at. Oh no! Do I give a fuck if, weirdo pretty boy Trudeau is sneering at us? I don't care about that guy. He can go take some more goofy namaste pictures, okay? I don't care about that. Why is that so important to them? Because they're smug elitist pricks. America's being laughed at. Again, on the list of things that concern me, I put wages and healthcare and war way above. Oh my God, what do other countries in the cool club think about us? Then, of course, he does the old Russiagating and fear-mongering, and he brings up the Russian bounty story, which has, by the way, been totally debunked. Even conservatives like Colin Powell was like, that's absurd and that's not true. So, I mean, they're never going to stop. They're never going to stop Russiagating, even though we had the Mueller report, even though literally people thought Donald Trump was going to get dragged out of the Oval Office in handcuffs for treason. That didn't happen, and now they've concocted, more absurd theories and connections to further validate in their mind this preposterous theory of he's like a Manchurian candidate. That's exactly what John Kerry is pushing there. Then he says, oh, he won't defend our country or the troops, and he brings up how the United States spreads democracy. Really? Is that what we do? We spread democracy. It's not that we interfere in other countries and overthrow democratically elected governments and put in right-wing dictators that serve our interests. No, it's not that, even though it's exactly that. We're going to call that spreading democracy. And he brings up American exceptionalism. He talks about American exceptionalism. That's the neoconservative idea. It's this nonsensical American supremacist idea that we're better than the rest of the world. It's not that everybody's equal, we're all human beings, we have a common shared humanity. No, the United States is better than the rest of the world. We are American exceptionalists. We're uniquely positioned to be the world's sole superpower and run the world like an imperialist power. We're the policemen of the world. And this is an idea he's pushing at a Democratic National Convention, American exceptionalism. Oh, are we permanently stuck in a neoconservative mindset? Is that what it is? Is that how deep-rooted the military-industrial complex is in both parties and the neocons are in both parties? That everybody's just drunk on the American exceptionalist Kool-Aid? American exceptionalism manifests itself as a fundamentalist religion, where you think America can do no wrong, and the answer is always more U.S. troops, more intervention, more bombing. I can't believe he literally talked about spreading democracy. And when he was arguing that, oh, Trump won't defend our country or the troops, think about what he's incentivizing Trump to do there. He won't defend our country or the troops. So what exactly are you calling for? What exactly do you want him to do? You want him to sanction other countries? You want him to sanction Russia over that BS story about bounties on our troops? You want to invade? If you're saying he won't defend our country or the troops, then what would defending it be? Another war? An invasion somewhere? I can't, guys. The Democratic Party is so broken that we're looking at a situation where we have a pandemic, 170,000 people dead as a result of a virus. 5 million people have had the virus in the United States. Other countries have largely defeated the virus. We're still struggling. People are dying every single day here. We have an economic collapse happening. We have, 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We have 28 million might become homeless. The max we have right now in the country is maybe like 1 million homeless people. And we're talking about 28 million might become homeless. People can't pay the bills. And this is what the Democrats are doing at their convention. They're not talking about universal basic income. They're not talking about Medicare for all. They're not talking about any of the real solutions. They're not talking about what should be, leading the charge right now, which is a New Deal or universal masks. This is what they're doing. They're inviting Republicans from 1996, and we got John Kerry sounding like a Republican. And by the way, John Kerry ran against George W. Bush in 2004 after we already had 4 disastrous years of Bush, and he lost. You want to know why he lost? He ran a Republican-light campaign. His campaign was like, hey man, I'm just like George W. Bush, except a little smarter, so vote for me. And he lost. And this is exactly what Hillary did as well. Trump was saying, make America great again. She was like, America's already great. I'm an American exceptionalist. So you want to keep doing the same failed stuff? Now listen, we might be in a situation where things are so bad that the Democrats still win, but they're going to take all the wrong lessons away from it. They're going to take the lesson of being more bellicose, more hawkish, more neoconservative, more corporatist. And listen, we can't afford that. The world can't afford that. We have too many crises on our hands. So, this is beyond pathetic. The Democratic National Convention is like the worst thing I've ever seen. I wish I was exaggerating. I wish that was hyperbolic. But I really swear to you that I felt depressed after I watched even just 30 minutes of it.